Welcome to the Real Estate Investing School podcast, the real deal episode. Today we've got one of our coaches, Chase Johnson. How you doing, Chase?
Good. What's going on?
Good, man. Just excited to dive into one of the deals you've done and kind of let everybody learn from what you learned. So we'll hear about how you found it, how you funded it, and how you forced it to make it profitable. So anyway, yeah, let's just dive right in, man.
Yeah, man, this one's been a project. It's crazy.
Okay.
Lasted a little bit longer than we had initially planned, but you know, we're making it work.
That's how it goes. That'll be good. Sometimes it's good to, a lot of these stories, a lot of stuff works out pretty well. So it's kind of cool to hear ones that maybe drag out and you have to pivot and things don't go as planned to see
Mhm.
like alternative solutions. So that should be good.
Yeah, yeah. The nice thing is that whenever I'm running numbers, for I guess really any sort of exit strategy, I always assume the worst case scenario,
Mhm.
which I mean usually ends up being just long term buy and hold. Because there's almost little to no risk in that. So what happened with this deal was we actually bought it planning to just turn around and, flip it after forcing the appreciation. And yeah, my contractor, to say the least, he just took like way too long on it. So it we ended up just, shifting strategies and we're like, hey, let's just keep it as a rental. So, but if I hadn't
Okay.
have bought it, as if it made sense for a rental, then I would have been probably in over my head. So,
Yeah, so tell us real quickly. So you base it off worst case scenario,
hmm
and by worst case scenario, you mean like if I can't sell it and I'm holding it, I
hmm
I at least won't be like I at least won't lose it. I guess that's the main thing. If everybody listens to me, I'm always like, hey, get as many assets as you can. But number two rule is like don't lose your assets. So basically, you make sure that you have an exit strategy where you won't lose out no matter
yeah.
what.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure. And then it's all done in my evaluation process, right?
Hmm.
So I assume worst case scenario throughout the whole thing. So even like risk and contingency and holding it longer than expected, like all that, I actually build that into my deal evaluation. So that just in case it does happen, I'm ready for it.
Yeah,
So
I think
like
that's so important.
yeah, so like if I'm gonna flip it, for example, most flips I can get done in probably 3 months. If it's a longer, like more extensive flip, it's gonna take a little bit longer. But this one, the contractor at the time, he had told me he could get it done in a month, right? So I'm thinking, okay, cool. Worst case scenario, three, right? We're at 8 months into it.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah,
So
but
let's back up then. So how did you find this deal? Where's it at? What year was this? I mean, is this currently happening? Like, where did you find the deal?
yeah, so it's here in San Antonio. What
Okay.
happened was I had a friend that he had he's been doing real estate for a long time here in San Antonio, kind of a big player, does a lot of business. We had kind of kept in contact, and every now and then, when we talk, we're like, hey, we're going to do a deal eventually. But he had gotten a deal under contract and put it up on Facebook, in one of like the local investor groups here, and I was like, hey, send me the details on this. So he sent it to me, and I was like, yeah, I want to go look at it. So I went and I looked at it and asked him if he could cut me a deal because we'd been trying to do a deal together for a long time. So he's like, yeah, I'll cut you down to 120. So I was like,
So
all right,
he
sweet.
acted as the wholesaler on it. He found it and then wholesaled it to you.
Yeah,
You end up getting it under contract, and your plan is to flip it. That's the ideal scenario when you're going into this.
yeah, we just wanted to flip it.
Cool.
So he had it under contract for like 115 or something. So he barely made anything on it, but I picked it up for 120. I budgeted 30 for repairs, and then the ARV on it was around 205.
Oh,
So all
awesome.
in, I'm thinking, probably 153, and then sell it at 205. Let's say worst case scenario, 195. So
Yeah.
that was the original plan. So
So that's how you found it was through a friend wholesaler that you've been working with. So just like
Mhm.
be active, keep your network going, people. And then you're able to jump on it. And then how did you fund it? Did you use hard money? Is that typically how you fund these projects?
Yeah, Yeah, I used hard money. I found a really good lender. All in, I think my down payment on that was probably like 7 grand. So
So,
it really
what were
wasn't.
the terms, if you don't mind sharing? What were your terms on your hard money? How many points did you pay up front? What was
Mhm.
your interest rate, and how long were they willing to hold the note?
Yeah, so points on the back end, all points on the back end.
Oh, so
So
you didn't have to pay any points up front.
no,
And for those
no.
listening, a point is just 1% of the purchase price. So if you got it for 120,000, you'd be looking at, what is that, 1,200 bucks or something would be a
Hmm.
point. So they're going to charge what, 2 or 3 points, but they'll take it off the profit at the back and not charge you up front.
Yeah, they're doing one and a
Cool.
half on the
One
back
and a
end.
half. Okay.
Yeah, but then on the front end, I think I just paid like recording fees, title fees, whatever whatever the fees are, document printing, whatever it is,
Cool.
just on the upfront. So
Cool.
all in, yeah. I mean, I was, yeah, I think they had me pay maybe like the first couple months of interest only payments. Let's see, but yeah, I mean, it was around 7 grand to start.
Cool. And was it a 6 month term, 12-month term? What was the idea?
It was 12. Yeah,
12
12
month.
with
Gotcha.
a 12% interest.
Okay,
Um,
cool. So you
so
lock it down using hard money, about 7,000 up front. You got 2 points coming out at the back end, or one and a half at the back end, 12% interest, 12-month term. So now you have this money, right? And they give you money for rehab or just the purchase.
yeah, so they did on rehab. It was 30 for the rehab, draw hold back, held in escrow. The way that I do my draw reimbursement, so I split my rehab into rounds, right? And I usually
Mm-hmm.
try to plan it to where my first couple of rounds have the highest margin when I submit for rehab. So, for example, if I am going to do like let's say foundation and clean out, and that's going to cost me let's say 7 grand, right? When I submit for my draw reimbursement, I'm going to submit for more than that, right? So let's say 11, right? So I'm getting back 4,000 more than what I didn't initially put in to the first round. So doing that round over round, the way that I usually try to do it is by round, three, all of my initial 7 grand that I used to get down or to as a down payment, I've gotten all that back. So essentially, the way that I do it, I'm 100% cash on cash before I'm even done with the deal.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. And
Yeah.
so, because you're getting a little extra on the draw each time. So then you get the draw. So they're funding the purchase, they're funding the rehab. You're going through it. Everything's looking good. And then what happened? What happens next? Because
Yeah.
1 month is a lot shorter than 8 months.
Then a yeah. So where I actually went wrong was my contractor is also one of my tenants. So
Mm.
on another house. So he would pit rent versus the work against each other, and he would say, "Oh, well, if you want rent, then I got to have money to do the rehab." So it was just back and forth. But I mean, all in all, like yeah, it just took longer, and he just kept saying, tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. It just eventually got to the point where I was like, "Look, man, I got to find somebody else," you know. So I
You're
ended up
like, you need to
firing
finish
him.
this or I'm going to evict you and fire you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
the dilemma that
crazy.
I was running into was that legally I had to keep the two separate,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, their roles couldn't commingle. So
Yeah. But
yeah,
yeah, that's interesting. I've actually had issues with that too, where I like hired tenants in kind of a trade thing to do work. And it always just gets messy. I don't know. Like I
yeah.
had this one, like it was supposed to like paint my house while I was out of town and he used the wrong color. And it was like, bro, like it was the outside of the house too. So like the grays like don't match on the same wall, like swath neck to swath. And it was
So
just like,
crazy.
and there's not much I could do because it wasn't a real contract or wasn't a real anyway, doing trade with tenants is probably a line you don't want to cross.
Hmm.
I'm sure it's worked sometimes and people feel like it's dope and it probably is when it works out, but I've had issues with that too.
Hmm.
So you fire him, you get a new contractor to finish it up. Is that where you're at now or did that happen a few months ago?
Yeah, that's where we're at now. So we're probably not even a month into this guy, and he's doing really well. So we're actually almost done with it. It should be done here in about a week, I think.
Oh, cool.
So not to say that the problems stopped, right? I mean, they continued. I got a stop work order from the city because the city placed the permit on the wrong house.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
They just
you
put the
know,
wrong number on the address, right?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
my handwriting clearly shows the right address, but when they did the data entry, it shows the wrong house. So task force is what they call them. So they drove by, they put a stop work order, but yeah, so I'm dealing with that. I got to meet with him Thursday. So yeah, that's where
Yeah.
we're at. We
It's
should be
always
done in about a week.
something. So let's say it finishes in the next, week or month or whatever, where are you going to be sitting at there? Does it to force this to actually be a good deal still, even though it took, 8 times longer than expected,
Hmm.
which is probably double your worst case scenario still. Um,
Hmm.
what are the numbers going to look like then? Are you still thinking flip? Are you thinking long hold? Or have you been, what's kind of been the strategy there?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to keep it because the idea was to finish all in at 153, which was the 120 for purchase, and then the difference from 120 up to 153 was rehab.
Hmm.
Right, but in my interest only payments, the last 8 months, it's
Right.
kind of eaten up most of that. So, yeah, I mean, if I go to actually flip it at this point, I mean, I don't know if it would make a lot of sense, but regardless, I mean, I'd probably still make money on the flip, of course, but the way that I look at it is if I can hold it, make money on the rents and then the appreciation and then obviously like tax savings and all that,
Yeah.
um, then I mean I might have to wait a little bit longer for a return, but the return long term is more of a payout than me just flipping
Hey,
it.
when anybody knows me, they know that's what I love. I love infinite returns, even if it's slow and long, but if it's infinite, I love that. So no, that's not a bad thing. So what's the plan to be able to keep it then? Kind of like a bird thing, basically. You're just gonna go refinance it based on the after repair value ARV, and you
Hmm.
should be able to get enough money to pay off the hard money lender and keep the property at least break even or cash flowing.
Yeah. So the nice thing is that they're funding hard money is funding at 75% of the ARV.
Hmm.
So if I refi into traditional, like let's say 80%, my all-in cash basis, like I'm still under 75%, right?
Yeah.
So even once I go to do a refi, even if I don't have enough for like just a full-on traditional cash out refi, I pencil the numbers well enough so that even if I have to come to the table at refi, it's still less than a 20%, investment loan
Hmm.
down payment. So, I mean, I'm thinking all in if I have to come to the table at refi is going to be like, maybe a few $1,000, but the way that my cash on cash return works with rents, it's still an astronomically high cash on cash return. Because
Yeah, I mean,
remember,
because you're in at like 10,000 or something, maybe, and it's
yeah,
like if you're getting even a 200 or $200 cash flow, like your cash and cash return's great. I'll go buy some for 10,000 right now for a
yeah,
$200 cash flow.
yeah. Because remember, all of my seven, I've already gotten that back, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
off of my initial investment, I'm still, as of current, I'm still 100% cash on cash return off of that initial investment. But now what I need to do is I need to get my money back from my interest only
Interest
payments.
payments, yeah.
Most of it's going to be, from the appreciated value. Even if there's not enough, I'm going to get it back from what I'm getting in rents, which I should get in the first year. So it's essentially 100% cash on cash return in the first year.
It's cool because it's one of those things like long term, like say, oh, it's awesome, you got this house really free. It ate up more bandwidth and time and effort than you probably would have normally designed, but it's like the home's there and you didn't lose it. And that's what's cool is okay, plan A was to flip it. Things didn't go as planned, so plan B is you can just long hold it and do a burr,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
cool. So I love that you have that strategy. And so that's kind of how you forced it, even as things changed. Have you got a
Mhm.
lender lined up for the long-term debt?
Yep,
That's awesome.
yep.
Do you know what
They're
kind of
actually
terms
working
you're
on
going to be
it.
getting on that?
I don't. Interest is going to be a little higher than I like, but I'm not even that concerned about it because I can always refi.
Yeah.
Um, so Yeah, I mean, I'll probably cash flow maybe $400, you know. So, but still, I mean, the way that I look at it is things are going to correct. I can always refinance to a lower interest rate. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely in a highly rentable area.
Cool.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a newer thing for me because I have to deal with, you know, some like lower clients or sorry, lower tenants than I'm actually used to. But all in all, I mean, like I said, I planned for the absolute worst case scenario when I got into it, and not even the worst case scenario is actually happening right now. So it could get worse than it is right now,
Sure.
and it would probably still pencil. So
I love that. And that's what's so cool when if you do real estate right, like it's either win or win bigger or win really big, but there really
mhm.
shouldn't be much losing very often, if you
No,
calculate it right. Well, that's dope, dude. Thanks for sharing the details of that ongoing deal. That's exciting. Sometimes these deals are like from 10 years ago. It's like, oh, cool. But hearing
mm,
something that's happening right now today, that really anybody could go do. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And for you, you're like, oh, there's a disappointment. There's probably listeners, even me. I'm like, well, if I could get a free house or one for 10,000 bucks, like that would be great. I'd love nothing more than building my portfolio. And so it's like, even the plan B is still an awesome thing people can go out and start doing.
yeah,
So Burr's not dead, even in today's market, huh?
no.
So I love it,
Yeah,
man.
biggest thing I could say is, I mean, I know it's cliche, but yeah, you make your money when you buy, you know.
Mm,
So we like to think it's when we do the refinance or the sell or whatever, and the actual cash hits our bank account. Like, no, you made your money way before then, you know. So you gotta
because
you
you
gotta
got a good deal on the purchase price.
yep. And your risk, contingency, holding, capital expenditures, all that. You build it into your deal before you actually buy. And again, if that's all built into your evaluation, you know, and it still pencils and you still get it under contract, then you're good to
You're good
go.
to go. I love it, man. Well, sweet. Any other details of this deal you want to share?
No, that's it. Whenever it's done, I'll send out pictures.
There we go. We'll get a little update from you.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate it, man. If people do want to follow you and see how the deal ends up going, what's your Instagram to follow?
It's at let's see, flipping San Antonio, flipping underscore San Antonio
Flipping_San Antonio. That's on Instagram, so people
on
can kind of
Instagram.
follow the process with you and feel it all
Yep.
go down live. So
Yep.
awesome. Thanks for being on the show, Chase. Appreciate having you here.
Okay. Thanks.
Take care.